Do you like boozy gourmand fragrances? Because if you do, today's fragrance needs to be on your list.
Shut up and sit down.
Hi, and welcome back. Well, last week we looked at a lovely gourmand fragrance from Scents of Wood in America. And so I thought we'd stay on that same train today and look at another gourmand. And this time we're going to be looking at a fragrance from the house of Nasomatto, which was the first house that was founded by Alessandro Gualtieri. And the fragrance today is this one, Baraonda. So before we start, I would just want to set the scene here. Baraonda is not your typical Gualtieri perfume. It's not challenging, it's not in your face, it's not edgy, it doesn't make you worry about what you smell like to other people. It is a very likable, wearable perfume, which is unusual for Gualtieri. So let's have a look at it. And the first thing is the presentation. So look at this bottle. It's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? Although it's unusual. Now, a few people have copied this design, but Gualtieri was the first person to put a perfume, as far as I know, in a bottle like this. It seems to break all the design rules. I mean, the cap is almost larger than the bottle. In fact, side on it probably looks like it is. And at first you think, oh, you know, someone's made a big muck up there with the design. But when you look at it more carefully and you see it in a row with other Nasomattos, you realise that they got this very right. So if they'd made the lid, the cap, a little bit larger, it would have definitely looked top heavy and awkward. But then if they'd made it a little bit smaller, it probably would have looked like a factory production line mistake. It was slightly oversized. But by getting it, the proportions almost 50-50 as they are, and having this kind of asymmetrical shape from one face to the other, they've come up with something that's absolutely a masterpiece, and which is why people keep copying it. And you know what? I feel like this could even be a metaphor for Gualtieri's perfumes, because a lot of Gualtieri's perfumes, they also look awkward on first smell. They kind of seem unbalanced. There's all these top notes that are shouting at you, and you think, oh my God, what is this? And then within 15 minutes, they settle down and they form themselves into a composition, and everything comes into balance, and you realise that this is a true masterpiece. Now, the lid on this one is made of cork. They're always made of different materials across the Nasomatto line. It's held on not by magnet, not by friction, but it actually clicks on the top of the bottle. And it's held there very firmly, which is good. When I take that off, obviously you've got this beautiful glass bottle there underneath, and the glass is heavy and it's very clear, crystal clear. And wrapped around the glass is the label, very similar to Auto Parisi label. And the juice is very well presented. You can see straight up that this is a very small bottle. There's only 30 mils of juice in there. And this bottle costs $330 where I live, so it's an expensive perfume, which is why there's still quite a bit in there, because I ration it. I don't let myself wear it all the time. I probably would wear it every day if I could, but I can't afford to, so I save this for special occasions. Anyhow, what's it like to wear? Well, let's give it a try. Now, the first thing to note is it has a beautiful atomizer. You get a lovely fine mist comes out of there. And straight up, without even bringing my arm near my face, I can smell this. It's very effusive. It fills the room. It'll project out 3 meters when you first spray it. But it then settles down and it comes in a bit closer, and you'll get a sort of 1 meter sillage around you. But anyone that comes into that 1 meter zone, they're going to be drawn in like a moth to a flame to this, because it is so beautiful. So what do you smell? Well, right up, obviously, there's this boozy whiskey. And It could be, it's whiskey, yeah, but it could also be rum. And I say that because rum is made by the distillation of raw sugar. And there's kind of a bit of there's definitely a sweetness, a sugar smell in here that could be evoking a rum rather than a whiskey, but it doesn't matter. It's boozy. That's the main point. And then underneath that, this is where it's a bit interesting. So I can smell kind of like toasted coconut under there. And then underneath the toasted coconut, there's like baked apple. And this reminds me of something that my mother used to make for me when I was a child. So my mother was English and she used to make this apple crumble. So what it was a layer of apple or layers of apple in a baking dish with some spice on there. So there was probably some nutmeg, some cinnamon, there was some cloves in there, I think. And then she would put a layer on top of that, which was the crumble. And the crumble was made of, I'm not sure exactly what, I think it was flour, butter, maybe some biscuit crumbs and some coconut. And that all went on top and then it went into the oven. And when it came out of the oven, you had this beautiful smell of the baked apple, and then the sugars in the top have caramelized, and so it has this kind of caramel coconut scent. And I get that coming through in this perfume, which is what makes it so delicious and intoxicating. It's not just the booze that's intoxicating, it's the gourmand, the sweetness, and the kind of baked dessert smell. It's almost like someone, you know, pulled one of these apple crumbles out of the oven and then poured some whiskey over it and maybe flambéed it. There's no smoke in here, but that's just, you know, what I imagine could have happened here. Now, there's some wood in there as well because obviously it's oak barrels that the whiskey were in, but it's not dominating. There's less wood in this, I would say, than there was in last week's fragrance, the scent of woods, oak in oak. And from there, this perfume doesn't go anywhere in particular. So it's a very linear transition for this perfume. It stays right there in that boozy gourmand space. And obviously it fades out over time. It's a long wearing perfume. So longevity, you'll get 12 hours out of this. So you don't have to spray a lot of it on and keep topping it up, which is good because it's expensive. Where would you wear this? Well, the most obvious place would be if you're going out to dinner, say on a dinner date or a date night, and your partner would really love smelling this on you, I'm sure, because it's completely beautiful and they probably want to eat you. So it's a good dinner out fragrance or evening out fragrance. It's not really an office fragrance. It's not that you couldn't wear it in the office. I don't think that they'd put a breathalyzer on you if you did. It's not that boozy, but it just doesn't suit the vibe of an office, really. And it might be distracting for people around you because they would keep going, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. So probably not the office. You could wear it outdoors, I guess. It's really a cool climate perfume or cool weather perfume. So this is very much a winter, autumn or fall, as you call it in America, type of perfume. It's not really a summer fragrance, I don't think. It could get a bit cloying in the summer in the heat. So cooler weather for this one. What would I rate it? Well, I would say a lot of people would give this a 10 out of 10. And if I was just rating it on being a gourmand fragrance, I'd probably give it a 10 out of 10 as well. But I'm taking a couple of points off, and I'll tell you why. It's more about my expectation of Gualtieri's perfumes. So this one, for a Gualtieri, as I said, is very different, and it's very what I'd call pedestrian. So it doesn't have a narrative. It doesn't have a big transition where you go from one place to another like you do, say, in Megamare, where you start off in the sunshine and then you come into a storm. This is not like that. It's a very smooth, steady, pedestrian walk over 12 hours. And for a lot of people, that would be fine. In fact, a lot of people would like that because it's such a nice, sweet smell. You don't want it to go away and you don't want it to change. But for me, I look for a narrative in a perfume, and this doesn't quite fit the bill for me. So that's the first point. The second point is that the whiskey accord in here is very much, it's kind of an abstract accord. It evokes the smell of whiskey rather than being the smell of whiskey. So if I compared this to another perfume, Oud Marine from Maxim, that perfume is very much a whiskey perfume. In fact, it's almost a photorealistic rendition of an Islay malt from Scotland. It's got all of that upfront, grippy whiskey alcohol. It's got all of that peat moss in there, and it's got the ocean air in there as well. So that is a real whiskey accord to me. This one is just more of a whiskey nuance, and for me that's just falling a little bit short. I would rather like it to have more of a stronger whiskey presence in there, which would then make it into a more sort of adult kind of perfume. But that's just me. I'm a bit strange, and I have expectations on Gualtieri that maybe I shouldn't have. On Fragrantica, this perfume rates an average of 4.42. So clearly a lot of people are scoring this as a 10 out of 10, and I'm not surprised at all. It's very wearable, very approachable, somewhat pedestrian. As you know, I don't support blind buying perfumes, but if someone came to me and asked me and said to me, look, I really got to buy a Gualtieri, but I can't get a sample where I live, is there one that you would recommend? Well, this would be the one that I'd recommend as a blind buy. It would be the only one, because it's hard to imagine how anybody could actually take offense at this perfume. I can't imagine somebody ordering this and receiving it and then going, oh, I really don't like that, I want to trade it. It's a totally adorable perfume. Still, I would not recommend a blind buy, as I never do. I would recommend, though, that you definitely try it. Get your hands on a sample if you can, or a decant, and give it a try. And after you have done that, please put a comment down below and let me know what you think of it. Or if you've already tried it, put a comment down below and let me know what you think of it. And that's it for today. So until the next episode, take care, stay safe, and enjoy your fragrance, whatever it is.